Welcome back, QuaverTV audience, to another deep dive into the world of mind-blowing connections. Today, we're tackling the world of sketch comedy, starting from its roots and working our way through the legends like Saturday Night Live, In Living Color, MADtv, Chappelle's Show, and Key Peele. Buckle up, because this is going to be a hilarious trip through time and comedy history. Sketch comedy is where some of the greatest comedians honed their craft, and the shows that defined this genre didn't just make us laugh, they shaped the culture. But before we get into the big names, let's go back to where it all began. The predecessors, Your Show of Shows and Monty Python's Flying Circus. Before the modern sketch comedy boom, the genre was dominated by classics like Your Show of Shows in the 1950s. Starring Sid Caesar and featuring writers like Mel Brooks and Carl Reiner, this show laid the groundwork for what sketch comedy could be: smart, satirical, and capable of producing mega talent. Then, of course, came Monty Python's Flying Circus in 1969. This British comedy troupe brought absurdity, surreal humor, and a willingness to break all the rules of traditional comedy. Their influence is still felt today, and they opened the door for the more experimental side of sketch comedy that would emerge in the US with shows like SNL and In Living Color. And now we arrive at the big one, Saturday Night Live. Premiering in 1975, SNL was the brainchild of Lorne Michaels, who gathered a cast of talented but largely unknown comedians, writers, and performers. From the very beginning, SNL was a launching pad for comedic legends: John Belushi, Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray, and of course, Eddie Murphy. Saturday Night Live was groundbreaking because it tackled politics, culture, and celebrities with biting satire, but it also gave rise to a new kind of star, the SNL alum. Think of everyone who's come through SNL and gone on to massive success: Eddie Murphy, Bill Murray, Tina Fey, Amy Poehler, Chris Rock, Adam Sandler, Will Ferrell, the list goes on. And here's where the connection starts. While SNL was a game changer, it wasn't the only sketch comedy show making waves. In the early 90s, along came In Living Color, a show that would challenge SNL in ways that no one saw coming. Keenen Ivory Wayans, who we talked about in our last episode, created In Living Color in 1990, bringing a fresh, unapologetically black perspective to sketch comedy. This wasn't just a competitor to SNL, it was a revolution. Where SNL was known for its white, middle-of-the-road humor, In Living Color leaned into bold, edgy comedy that reflected urban culture, black life, and street smarts. The cast of In Living Color was a mix of seasoned performers and rising stars: Jim Carrey, Jamie Foxx, the Wayans brothers Damon, Sean, and Marlon, and let's not forget the Fly Girls, Jennifer Lopez among them. The show didn't shy away from tough subjects like race, police brutality, or pop culture, but they always did it in a way that was accessible and hilarious. It became a cultural phenomenon and challenged SNL's dominance for a while. And the Wayans weren't done. Damon Wayans, after his time on In Living Color, transitioned to films and created My Wife and Kids, while the Wayans brothers produced movies like White Chicks and Scary Movie. The influence of In Living Color could be seen in the DNA of these projects, just like the SNL DNA was visible in Animal House, Ghostbusters, and more. While SNL and In Living Color were battling it out, MADtv quietly premiered in 1995 as an underdog. Modeled after Mad Magazine, this show took a more irreverent, sometimes weirder approach to sketch comedy. And though it didn't have the same cultural cachet as SNL or In Living Color, it produced its fair share of stars: Key Peele, anyone. MADtv had its own unique voice. It wasn't as slick as SNL or as culturally specific as In Living Color, but it was goofy, a little messy, and often outlandish. Cast members like Will Sasso, Mo Collins, and Michael McDonald became fan favorites, and it gave MADtv a cult following. But the show's biggest contribution to sketch comedy history might just be the next great duo it produced: Keegan-Michael Key and Jordan Peele. Now, let's talk about Chappelle's Show. When Dave Chappelle's sketch show hit the airwaves in 2003, it changed the game. Where In Living Color had tackled black culture and race in the 90s, Chappelle's Show took that to a whole new level in the 2000s. From The Racial Draft to Charlie Murphy's True Hollywood Stories, Dave Chappelle wasn't just making you laugh, he was making you think. And he was doing it in a way that was fearless. No topic was off limits, no joke too risky. But it wasn't just about being controversial, it was about being real. Chappelle was saying things on TV that most people wouldn't say in private. And that honesty, combined with his unique comedic voice, made the show a cultural phenomenon. Chappelle walked away from the show in its prime, famously rejecting a $50 million deal from Comedy Central. His reasons were complex, but it's safe to say that Chappelle's show changed how sketch comedy approached issues like race, power, and celebrity. And though it ended abruptly, its impact on comedy and television remains huge. Finally, we come to Key and Peele, which debuted in 2012. Keegan-Michael Key and Jordan Peele, both alumni of MADtv, took the lessons they learned from their sketch comedy predecessors and created a show that was not only hilarious but also deeply satirical. Like Chappelle's show, Key and Peele tackled issues of race and identity, but they did it with their own distinct style, often blending absurdity with sharp social commentary. From the classic, substitute teacher, sketch to the hilarious, Luther the Anger Translator, bit, Key and Peele proved that sketch comedy was far from dead. They seamlessly blended the smart satire of Chappelle's show with the absurdity of MADtv and the cultural relevance of In Living Color. The show ran for 5 seasons, and by the end, both Key and Peele had cemented themselves as two of the most talented comedic minds of their generation. And Jordan Peele, of course, went on to redefine himself yet again as a master of horror with Get Out and Us, proving that the world of sketch comedy can be a springboard to any genre. So, let's bring it all together. SNL might be the sketch comedy institution, but it's the connections between all these shows that paint a larger picture. In Living Color challenged SNL and opened the door for a more diverse type of comedy. MADtv gave us Key and Peele, who took sketch comedy into the 21st century. And Chappelle's show shifted the cultural conversation, blending comedy with deep social critique in a way that resonated with millions. Each of these shows built upon what came before, whether it was the boundary-pushing satire of Monty Python or the pioneering work of SNL. They all contributed to a long-running legacy of sketch comedy, which is still alive and thriving today, from SNL's latest cast to viral sketch groups on YouTube. In the world of comedy, connections run deep, and whether you're laughing at a classic SNL skit, quoting Chappelle's show, or cracking up at Key and Peele's latest sketch, the legacy of sketch comedy continues to evolve, making us think and laugh along the way. That's all for today's episode of Mind-Blowing Connections on QuaverTV. Thanks for tuning in, and remember, comedy isn't just about the jokes, it's about the people who made us laugh and the connections they built. Stay tuned for more episodes, and keep those laughs coming.